Hi everybody, it's Patti. Welcome back to Throwback Thursday with Kraftin Kimmie stamps. Today I'll be featuring the cute I Believe in You stamp set by artist Sabrina. We'll be using that little bee in the middle that's eating jam or honey. I'll also be using our stained glass stencil, some Kraftin Kimmie inks, some watercolors, and mixed media. We'll also be using these ephemera pieces and this cute gingham paper from Cocoa Vanilla. I'll be using this Aqua board, which is a watercolor surface that's hard board that I can add a little hook on the back for a little project for myself. Danny, who used to be part of our design team, has a Facebook group that's basically a use your stash. So that's perfect for a Throwback Thursday, and I'll be using, the first thing on there is bees, so I'll be using I Believe in You, ephemera, so that's why I had the random assortment of ephemera out. And we want to use gingham or plaid, so I had that yellow gingham just to make sure I met that prompt. And then punches, so I'm using a really old Martha Stewart punch that I've had for at least a decade now. So good to use my stash up here and use something that I haven't used in a long time. We also have on the list fruit, so obviously the strawberries work for that, and I've been obsessed with strawberries lately, so I wanted to make sure I use them. So for our background, I decided to mix a few different things. So I had Distressed Ink and Tattered Rose, Shell Pink Watercolor, and our Yummy Yellow ink. And I thought I would make a yellow pinky background. So first off, I'm just adding ink to the one well with the Distress ink. I wasn't getting a lot out, so then I just grabbed a pipette just to add more. It's obviously pretty watery because it's the spray. Maybe using a re-inker might have been better, but that's okay. I'm adding that Shell Pink to the one well, and we'll add water to both of those just to dilute them a little bit. And I'm adding Yummy Yellow to the other well here. Now, when I go to paint with this, I do want to thin down our ink, but adding water, as you can see, didn't really work. So I'm just taking some alcohol, isopropyl 99%, and adding it to that well, and that'll water it down quite considerably and make it more fluid for me. As you can see, I can paint with it. It's not obviously like watercolor. It absorbs pretty fast into the panel, but I am able to spread it around on the panel, which is cool. It's a good idea to play with things that you're not sure about, so that's great that that worked. I'm then going into the Tattered Rose and kind of trying to blend them together, but the Tattered Rose, of course, is more dilute, and I had more water thinking that might help. So it's, again, this ground board has a lot of absorbency to it, so it isn't going to spread like some other smoother surfaces would. But you're just going to keep adding ink and trying different things until you like the background. The nice thing about this panel is you can add a lot of different layers to it, and it can take a beating. I also like it because I can stamp on it too. Although I don't do that today, you can use your stamps on this panel. I have before, so it's awesome that I can do that. At this stage, I'm finding it kind of not the prettiest background, so I'm going to try some other things. I tried to dilute a little bit more of that Shell Pink watercolor and spread it out a bit more. And then I decided to heat set it, let it sit for a bit, and then I'm going to add over top of it gesso. And the reason why I'm adding gesso is just to make it less vibrant, make it more blend into the background, help make it not so vibrant, which is kind of what I want to make sure my image on my panel is the most bright, vibrant thing here. So just adding a white layer of gesso, watered down, so you can still see the color underneath, but it won't be as bright. And do a few layers of this. And as you can see, it's already knocking back the color quite a bit. And then I tried adding a bit of watercolor to the gesso just to see if I can make the gesso a little bit pinker in color. It didn't really work. And that's fine. It was just experimenting today, which is always fun to do. And again, adding a bit of water and trying to add a bit more pink into the background. and adding a bit of the yellow, which did streak, like I was able to get a few yellow streaks with that. And then I added a bit more Tattered rose, thinking, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll just add more Tattered rose to it and see if I can make it pinker. But overall, the gesso, because it wasn't dry, just kind of smeared. So I probably didn't have to do that step or wait till it was dried. Once I was done with my background, I did cut out a circle of that gingham paper just to put as a kind of a base for the design. I didn't really like the yellow against that peachy pink background, so I did think it needed a bit more contrast. So using Mellow mustard, I just went around the edges of my circle, just to give it a little bit of a contrast, maybe give it a little bit more of a honey look. And I'm just using a foam dauber and just going around in a circle, trying to keep my wrist kind of in the same direction so that it's a little bit smoother transition. I then took out the stained glass stencil from Kraftin Kimmie Stamps. And I think I'm going to put it at a bit of an angle here and use our inks and just to add a little bit more of a pinky tone to our background to match with our ephemera a little bit better. So starting with Raspberry Rose, actually I think, no, sorry, it's Pretty in Pink first. I just started adding just a light layer of that kind of at an angle. I did add a little bit of masking tape, so hopefully my stencil won't move too much. And every once in a while, I'll lift up the stencil just to see what it looks like. I liked it, but it was still kind of more subtle than I was hoping for. Looking back at it now, that might have been okay, but I like to go bold with my stuff. So then I pulled out Raspberry Rose, just because I knew that was going to be a darker mid-tone. And then I started adding that, and again, this surface will take ink just fine, and as you can see, that pattern's coming to life now. And then I went really bold, and I pulled out Bashful Blush. Now, Bashful Blush is drawn, and it did take over. I'm okay with that, but as you can see, I didn't line up my stencil very well, and I had a sharp line there that I didn't like, so just moved my stencil over, added a little bit more, and tried to fade it out a little bit at the edge, so it wasn't so sharp. Now I'm lining it up to the bottom. I'm trying not to do the stencil the whole panel, and just realized it wasn't fully lined up there, so I went back in. But I did feel like it needed a little bit more towards the bottom there, and then I was happy with that. And as you can see, that then I have some contrast against that yellow. So here I decided I needed a bit more of that Bashful Blush, so I'm just adding it to the edges of my canvas, just to give it more of a vignette type look. It does make it more bolder than I originally was intending when I made this background, but that's okay. I don't mind it. With mixed media, I kind of learned that you're just going to do steps until you decide how you feel about it, and I don't mind that it looks kind of like strawberry lemonade too, which is kind of what I was going for with this one. So it's got that strawberry honey look to it. I had decided that I wanted some more pattern paper on here, so I took out some scraps from my bin, and I'm just adding whatever's left on my blending sponge onto the edges there. But then I noticed that I didn't cut it properly. It was kind of at an angle, so I had to recut it, and then I went back in and reblended the edge that I had just cut off. And I decided I needed to add a bit more ink, so using the Bashful Blush and the Raspberry Rose, I just used, again, what was ever on my blending sponge just to give it a little bit of more of that nice pink tone, and then audition it against the canvas. Here I stamped the bee onto grid paper in my Misty, and I am just lining up my little mask that I made with my silhouette, and lining it up so I can make perfect borders around the bee, and so I can stamp it in any color I want. I just place that back in like a puzzle piece, and then I grab our ink, which I'm using Mellow Mustard, and I stamp out my bee. As you can see, when I stamp, I don't get the perfect stamp the first time. I think it's more my Misty than it is the stamp or the ink. But the nice thing about having the Misty is I can go back in and restamp it, and it'll be perfect once I take it out. Now on to coloring. So I have just put this onto a sticky grid so that way I don't have to hold down the image while I'm coloring. A lot of the time when I'm coloring, I do move my paper around, but for the video, I don't. I will apologize. I probably should have angled my camera a little bit better so you can see what I'm doing. But I want it to be pretty light, pastel type look to my image. So I am just going to start with the face. I'm just mapping it out with that E30. And then I'm going to go in and add E50 over the whole thing. I do it I color faces on critters the same as I would on skin on human characters. So usually I'd start with like a light base and then work my way up to the darker colors. It just depends on how I'm feeling. Sometimes I go lightest to dark, sometimes I go darkest to light. Here I decided I would go light to dark just to make sure that I'm not overly blending. And E30 I was thinking was going to be my darkest shadow color, but in a moment you'll see that I will add in E11 as well. This little bee is so cute, and I wanted to make sure that the shading was underneath the hairline. I do draw in a little bit of a line underneath the nose just to make it look like it has a round nose, and making sure I have shading around where the jam, I'm calling it jam today instead of honey, is on the little hand in front of his face. E11 will make it quite a bit darker, but still will make it look pastel with the other colors that I picked out. So I just like to have, like I said, that definition. And sometimes I'm a bit of a contrast junkie. So I need to learn to keep things soft sometimes. But overall, I am happy with this blend that I had made. So it's E11, E30, and now I'm just blending out that E11 over exactly where I just did. And then E51 and E50. As I'm coloring, I thought I would go over why I'm making this project today. We have so many cute stamps that sometimes we buy just because we want it for ourselves, and yet I find myself making projects for other people, and not that I couldn't make a bee project for somebody. I'm sure a lot of my friends and family would love bees, but I actually really love bumblebees. They are my favorite insect for sure. My mom's all about the ladybugs. I'm all about the bumblebees. And I wanted to make a project for myself using our stamps. So that's where that mixed media panel comes in. It's something I can add a hook to the back of it and hang onto a wall. And something cheerful and happy that I wanted to make for myself. So now I'm going down to the arms, and again, I'm sorry my hand's in the way, but I want to make sure that the hands that are in front of the chest are lighter than the chest piece itself, so that way I can make sure that the arms, you really can see the contrast between the arms and the chest piece. So I start with the arms, and I'm just making sure that my dark ends are more towards the outsides. So it's okay to go over near the head there, and again down the arm. I won't go all the way to the end of the hand, just because that piece I want lighter. Also, you may notice that I'm adding a bit of a texture in with the darker colors. I'm just doing tiny little strokes, kind of like what I would do for little hairs. Just because, you know, if this could be a bumblebee, he needs to have the fuzziness to him. I will add that to the top of his face as well, and you will start noticing that once I'm done coloring the arms here. And again, we're just blending from our dark to the light, and on the face you'll see I'll blend from the dark to the light. I may not do every marker in the combo. Again, trying to keep it light still. While we're coloring this part of the image, I am starting to think about what I want to do for the rest of it. Usually I do wings in like a blue or a purple, but because our color combos are more of a peachy, yellow, pink combo, I did decide that I wanted to keep my bee in as much of the same colors as that I'm going to use for the ephemera. So the wings are going to be a nice peachy pink color, and the flower will be a little bit of a nice petally pink as well. And the jam on the face is going to be the darkest because I want it to match with that strawberry up top. Again, just doing that slight flicking motion just to get in the shadow areas. I don't necessarily do it for all the colors. I sometimes just do the last two in my combo. And then I'll start adding in cheeks with a little bit of blush and start adding in my details on my face. You'll see that I just drew in the eyebrows as well. I always put eyebrows on my critters. I know they don't always have eyebrows, but it's kind of like the style I like. So I'm just going over again that face detail, and then I'll start adding in blush once everything's kind of colored up here. I did miss the feet, which I'm going to color in the lightest color too, and you'll see that in a bit. So as I'm finishing up adding the texture to the parts, I'm going to start adding in the blush. So starting with my R20, go either side of the face there, and kind of just flick it towards the center a little bit. Then I'm going to soften that up with the R00. And then I'm going to come back in with my my E50, just to soften up that blend a little bit. Then I'm going to start bringing in my dark colors for the second part of the bee. So for the color combo for the darker parts, I am going to use a combo of YR20, YR21, YR24, and YR27. It's a nice caramelly orangey color that complements the beige that we used on the face. When I map in, I'm just mapping in with my YR20. It is almost similar colors to the face detail already. So I am jumping to my YR24, which is my second darkest, and just adding that in instead. And I just go to each side of the face and kind of pull my color towards the middle and trying to leave the highlight towards the top of the head. I do go down to the band on the belly as well. And I'm just, again, making that flicking motion just to make it a little bit of a fuzzy bee. Now I'm going towards my YR27, which is my darkest in this combo, and just making sure that my shadows are really deep. I do go in the middle where the eyes or where the little V goes in the middle there. I do add a little bit of that as well to that bottom part. And again, the highlight will be towards the top of the head. Going down to the YR24 and blending that out. Again, I don't want it to be overly blend because I want that texture detail for it. Next will be my YR21. And now I'm finally going to use that color and making sure I'm blending up quite a bit of it just to add quite a bit of that so that the contrast between the YR20 and the YR24 is not too abrupt. I do a second layer, and I'll go through that in a moment again, because as much as I like the highlight at the top, I found it was a little too light, and I also usually do 2 layers like I said earlier. Anyway, I am going to use this YR27 for the eyes and the mouth. Just because I wanted the eyes and the mouth to be a little bit darker too. Then I blended it out a little bit with the YR24. I didn't show you that. Oh, no, I didn't use that on the face, just the YR27. While I'm finishing up the details on the orange bits on here, I'm going to slowly realize that I forgot the feet, and now that I'm looking back at the video, I'm pretty for sure I forgot the neck too completely, but that's okay. I can always fix it up after. I do love my Copic markers, and I don't see me changing anytime soon, so I hope that showing you off the blends here helps you just with that as well. I just realized I need to do the antenna I'm going to use the same colors that I did for the orange bits, just because I like that darker tone. So I'm just going with the YR27 on the bottom of each of the little poofs, and I am using my YR27 to draw in the antenna cords or whatever they're called, and then using YR24. And and YR21. If you find that it's hard for you to draw those antenna, again, I'm not sure what they're called, antenna lines, you may want to just use a gel pen or a pencil, but I do like using my markers to kind of complete the details so that all the details look the same. Here is where I realized I forgot the feet, so just going back in, and I'm just going to quickly color them in with the beige color, just because they are the lowest band on his feet. Maybe they should have been the orange, or lowest band on the bee. Maybe they should have been the color of the orange, but I guess then it wouldn't match the top feet, if that's what they're called on bees. Now I'm wondering, I mean, obviously bees have little feet that we just don't see them. All right, so now on to the wings. So I am going to do a very pale combo. With the wings, I am doing R00 because it's a nice light color, and I am just making sure that I'm mapping out, again, where I want my shadows. The R01 will go above the middle part line and on each side of it. Again, I apologize that my hands are in the way, so you can't really see what I'm doing. E01 is my darkest of the color combo, so I'm making sure that the middle piece that you see on the wings is the lightest, just so that there's a bit of contrast between both sections on the wings. And I'm just going back and forth. You'll see that I'll add the R00 to the top of the wings and that middle section. I looked at it and went, oh, I need another layer of, oh, no, I went on to the other wing. Okay, I went on to the next wing and decided to do, again, middle tone, and then for my mapping, and then I went back into with my darkest. Oh, there I added a bit more of the E00 to that. E01, I mean. Now I'm just adding the R01, and I'm doing this pretty quickly because I sped up my video so that you guys wouldn't have to be here all day, but I think you can get the gist of what I'm doing. The bottom wings don't have as much detail to them because they're kind of tucked in behind the flower. So I just made sure that I hit all three of the combos and that the lightest was on the end still. As we do that, like I said, I do plan out my next colors in the section. I do sit there and I for video's sake, edited it out. But at that point I was like, okay, so these wings are pink. I need to make sure my petals are slightly different shade. But I am going to take that R00 and add it as my lightest just to keep it in the same color family as the wings. Now that I'm done the bee, I'm going towards the petals to color them. I'm going to take in a moment the R20 marker and just on the side there map out where I want my shadows. So on either side of the petal, I'll add some shading. Same with obviously at the bottom of the base of the petal, and then coming up that artist drawn line and adding a second line beside it. I'll leave a little highlight in the middle as best I can of the petal, and the highlights will be towards the top and the middle of the petal. While I'm coloring those, I'll just go over the color combo that I picked for the petals. I did R00, R30, R20, R22, and R32. And you'll see me just go light to dark, dark to light. Kind of just depends on what I'm feeling at the moment. And then go into my darkest just to make sure that I kept my shadows where I wanted them. While we're busy watching me color the petals, because that's going to take a few moments here, I thought I would talk about the stamp sets that are in the Thursday Throwback. So just as a heads up in case somebody's new watching this video, every Thursday we try and post a video on Facebook and YouTube just showing off some older stamp sets. This one was released, I believe, either a year or 2 years ago, and we just will have a sale on in the store. So if you're interested, you can go to craftingkimmiestamps.com, hit the sales section, and it'll bring you right to the stamp set. And Kim has it on sale so that you can get it and decide if you want to color along and watch this video and follow my process. And there are also other sales going on as well. Any of the stamp sets that have been Throwback Thursday in the last couple Thursdays will be up there. And I believe July's will be up soon as well. We would love it if you would give us feedback on some of the tips or techniques, card ideas you want to see us do. Our design team has quite a few different styles, and you know, we all do things just a little bit differently. But if there's any techniques you want to see, even if it's not something I maybe do, but you can always leave a message. I can find out if one of the girls can do it for us. One of the other things I love about our Kraftin Kimmie stamps is I like the size of these bees. They're just nice size to color. They do take a little bit of time because I'm a little bit, like I said, like to add lots of contrast. But I like coloring, so I like the size of these stamps. But we also have smaller ones for those who are maybe a little bit of a beginner or don't want to spend all day coloring. And when we have some more advanced stamps as well. If you are also new to Kraftin Kimmie, we do have a Facebook group called Kraftin Kimmie Stamps. Sorry, Kraftin Kimmie Friends of Kraftin Kimmie Stamps. And we just ask that you join us, and once we approve you, you'll be able to post. And we have challenges, so we have a monthly challenge going on till the end of June here, and the themes are masculine cards or holidays. You just think like Canada Day and 4th of July are coming up soon. So we have lots of stamps that we can make projects with for that. Or you can do Christmas. I did Christmas this time. Halloween. You know, whatever your heart desires. We also do have a monthly Christmas challenge that runs every month. And I do try and pick a new theme for every month. So this month was Christmas ornaments and trees. We have quite a few stamps that have Christmas trees in them and ornaments. And it can be as simple as somebody carrying an ornament, or you have ornaments on a tree, or ornaments decorating something. Just something that sparks your imagination with those prompts. We also always have a anything but a card challenge that goes all month, and the theme is anything goes, as long as it's not a card. So that can be as simple as calendar pages, journal pages, ATCs. It can be tags. It can be, you know, photo projects or mixed media projects like this. This would be considered an anything but a card project. And we hope you join us. If you do join us, make sure you post them onto the Facebook group in the appropriate folder for June's prompts. We will have some new prompts in July. The first Saturday of the month, we post those. And you do have a chance to win some gift cards for Kraftin Kimmie stamps, or some moolah, as we like to call it. Just so you can buy those stamps or stencils that you maybe have your eye on. As you can see, I'm speeding along with the coloring. I did do the petals first in the front, the ones closest to the eye. And then I did go to the back petals. That way I can make sure that the ones in the front are brighter than the ones in the back. And so I add a little bit more of the shadow colors to those back petals so that the front ones show up more. And if I look at it after I decided I did need a little bit more of a darker tone, I'll come back in and just add more shadows. And so that the contrast stands out better. I will go and do the green part of the flower in just a moment. And I did match that up to the strawberries. The green in theirs, the leaves on the strawberries, so that I had the same type of green for those. And I'll go through those color combo in just a moment. I believe it was, I'll wait till we're done actually the flower here. What else can I, I'm going to add a little bit of a white highlight into those areas that maybe I missed a little bit of the contrast, just to make sure it's nice and bright and white. I tend to forget to leave space, like I leave spaces for white, but then I color over it all with my lightest color and then go, oops, I wanted to keep that white. So I'll just go back in with a gel pen and lighten that up after. Here I'm just testing to see if the R32 is brighter than or darker than the R22. And they're pretty close in color, so you could always skip this step if you're happy with how it looked. I was happy, but I just felt like it needed just the petals in the back needed just a little tad more contrast. So I upped it up a little bit with that R32. I'll then go in with my, let's see what I used. Then I went down to like my second lightest and blended it out. didn't feel like I needed to go back all the way to the darkest and work my way down. And it's just kind of a feel for what's best for my project. And now I'm going to the R00, so we're almost done the petals here. And then, like I said, I'll go to the green part of the flower, and then we're almost done our coloring, which is good. As I am running out of things to say. Oh, I did a cut back here, and I must have... Oh, I'm going to do the jam first, actually. So taking the R20, that will be my lightest color. I'm just coloring in where I want my shadows. And again, instead of honey, I made that jam since we're using strawberries. And now I pulled in a color I haven't used anywhere else, which is R56. And that was pretty close to the top of the strawberry color there. So I thought it would go well. I also wanted to make sure that was darker than the rest of the bee, so that way you really notice that it was jam on the face and not just blush or a miscolored petal. And that shouldn't take me very long here. I'm just going to go through my colors. So that was R56, R22, I believe, R32, and R20. Just see. Yeah. And I'm going to add those. And again, just quickly going from darkest to lightest from the base upwards. Here's my greens now. So, like I said, I just kind of stopped and looked at the green on the strawberry and tried to follow along with that color. So, YG23 will be my first one in the mix. Then I have YG25, YG17, I believe, and G17. And this shouldn't take too long. Yeah, G17. I'm just not sure about the YG one. But we'll know in a second here. And stems can be almost any color. Like I said, I just wanted to match up with the strawberry. And let's see, what did I use? Oh, I was right. So it was YG17. And I hope for those who joined us for our spring retreat that you guys had fun. And if you didn't know it, the theme kind of goes with what I'm coloring tonight. I was going to use some of the stuff from that kit that we had for the spring retreat, but I kind of totally forgot. And again, I got obsessed with strawberries and decided I wanted to use that for this project. So, but I will be using some more of our kit for other projects coming up. And I do have a few more projects I want to make with bees on them, so maybe I'll throw in whatever we got from our kit for that. And oh, here's me adding, I believe I'm adding the white gel pen. I just use a jelly roll, and I'm just adding highlights onto the petals. I'll add a little bit of highlights onto the bee's eyes. I do add little white dots into the cheeks. And that's just another signature thing I use for my critters and people, is just some white freckles. I know freckles are more of a, a skin tone, but it's just to add a little bit of cuteness with a little bit of whimsy into my bee here. I'll add a little bit into the ear. Apologize for that little blip in the audio. I'm new to recording my own thoughts and didn't realize that we had moved on from the coloring right abruptly to the canvas. I put it in my splatter box, and I'm just adding some Distress Oxide Spun sugar to the background. Just add some nice bright highlights. And you'll see I'm happy with that, but I do want to add a little bit of the dark tone too. So I'm going to take my Bashful blush, add some alcohol to it, and splatter that on. It did splatter really nicely, but it went a little dark in the middle, so that's okay though, because I'm going to add some ephemera to it, so it's not a problem. I am going to take some gesso and also splatter that as well. I'm just taking my paintbrush and watering it down a little bit so I can splatter. And yes, I call it splatter, not spatter, but you call it whatever you want. That's okay by me. Sorry for the abrupt cut there. I did must have forgot to hit record for a little bit, but I am just arranging the ephemera, the pieces of pattern paper, and just making sure I have kind of an idea of where I want everything. You'll see that I'll change things up. That beehive, as much as it was cute, I found it a little too big there, and then I thought maybe a strawberry, but that looks silly to me too, so I took that off. But I just arranged the elements until I'm happy with it. Sorry, I know the canvas is a bit off screen. I will end up moving it up here in a moment. Here is where I'm like, okay, I'm pretty happy with that overall. I think I'm ready to glue things down. So I pulled out Peel and Seal. I had seen this be done before with people who use multiple layers on projects and thought, oh, this is a great idea. Except that I blame me. This was not the Peel and Seal's fault. I didn't glue things down properly when I was doing it. So you'll see me struggle here. And originally I was like, okay, so if I just lift up each layer and glue is what I was supposed to do. Make sure that the backside's glued for everything. And then you just go back in, and after you've glued each layer, you just have to lift up certain areas that obviously I didn't glue or didn't glue down properly. But I didn't do it properly. And you're going to see I'm going to have a little bit of a struggle bus here. But you live and you learn, like I said earlier. And I now know, looking back, what I did wrong. At the time, I was confused why this wasn't working. And it was because, I didn't add glue to the layers underneath. Like the first layer that's stuck to the Peel and Seal. Didn't get as much glue on it, so everything's going to move and shift, of course. I did pull off the sentiment here because I thought, okay, I'll line up the bee and everything will just stick to the canvas and it'll be all good. Except that, again, I do realize that a lot of my elements weren't actually glued down. So next time I would retry this, I would glue everything down as much as I could before I lift and put the Peel and Seal down. You'll see I'll just end up taking off a lot of the ephemera and just repositioning things. I didn't actually go with what my original plan was. Normally I'll take a photo with my phone, but since I was using my phone to record, I didn't have that option. So next time I'll take my iPad too and just take a photo of when I like my layout. That way I can refer back to it next time and not have me guessing where everything I just stuck down went. So I'm going to go on and do a bunch more gluing, and I might fast forward through this part or cut some of this out. So that way you guys don't have to watch me fiddle with all the pieces. But it's just kind of a play to add things on as you add the bigger elements first, and then I add smaller elements on top of or behind things. If I was going to do this canvas again, I would probably pop up my bee to make sure that she's the most prominent piece on the canvas. But I think keeping her in the middle and having her raised above the ephemera helps make her stand out against the ephemera. So overall, I'm pretty happy with it. But being a canvas, I can add multiple layers of different elements. I could do a whole bunch because I'm not putting this in an envelope. It doesn't matter how high things stick out. So next time I'll add 3D dots and stuff like that to the projects. You'll see that I did cut out a lot of what I did with the gluing of the strawberries and ephemera on the bottom. I just felt like that was a little too much to watch. I'm just adding this light yellow flakes. I felt the space underneath the bee was a little bit too bright and a little bit distracting. So I was hoping that was going to help out with that. I am now going to add those little flakes to the sentiment box that I have from my ephemera piece. I did cut out one of the flags just to make it a bit smaller, just so they weren't all the same level. And I'm just gluing that down, and then I'll glue the pink and the yellow one beside it. And then went and put it up towards the canvas and I'm still missing something. So I added another triangle tag piece on top of the on top of the sentiment box. And then I'm going to start adding in, I have one more prompt on my list of items that I need to add to this canvas, and we're almost done. I need to add the punch hearts still, so I will be adding those after, and I'm using them almost as how I would use the little gems I like to put on my cards. Just that way, it was just, instead of using the gems, I just used punched out hearts. And you're going to see me fishing around for some sort of embellishment to put on top of the little banner here. And I think I pulled out yet another strawberry. Yep, I did. Because I didn't add enough strawberries to this. but I did feel like that corner needed a little something, so the strawberries helped out with that. And overall, then I'm going to put that in the top corner. And you'll see that I looked at the sentiments from our stamp sets just to see if there was any that I wanted to add. And just all of them didn't really go with what the feel of my canvas was. So I left off the sentiments from our stamp set. But I do like using those sentiments for the most part too. It just depends on what it's saying. Here I'm just adding the Bashful blush ink to one side of a piece of cream cardstock. And then I'm going to add the Mellow mustard to the other side so that I have some yellowy orange and pinky red hearts. And I'll punch those out with the punch. And I just put that in my little spellbinder tray here. That way I can keep everything kind of organized and together. Any little hearts that I don't use, I'll probably just end up putting in with the ephemera and collections just so that I can have... I go, oh yeah, I have those little hearts, I might as well use them for something. I do tend to use quite a few of them on my project, and you'll see me just scatter them all over the place here. And I was just wondering, oh, I just used my Nuvo glue to add those on. And I used a pickup stick just to make it easier for me to grab. This pickup stick has a little bit of wax on the back of it. It is a very light tack one, so sometimes it won't always pick up the elements, and I do have to move a little bit of that. I did have to move my bee a little bit, so there was just a little piece of the back of its paper of the bee on there, and I just used the end of the tool, my little picker tool here, and I just scraped it off, and that worked out well. And again, you're just going to quickly see me finish up with a little bit of these hearts and scattering them all over the place. No rhyme or reason other than I just tried to have no two beside each other. Sorry, that's my cat making noise because she found a box to play with. And I added a heart up there, and then I was like, well, one heart doesn't seem like it's enough, so I'll go back in and add a yellow heart as well. I did cut out some of the hearts out of that gingham paper, and I'll add those around. And again, I did quite a few of them on this, but I like hearts, so again, doing a canvas that I like, that's the things I love, I gotta have hearts on it. So as I finish up with the hearts, I just cut out that footage just because it was a lot. I'm just going to check my prompts, and I hope you enjoyed watching me put together this canvas. And this is the end of the video. Thank you for watching.